Alright, today I'm going to be showing you how you can make this clip right here. And so for this one, I started out with this melodic texture from Glitchy Bullshit Super Duper. You can go buy that on my Gumroad if you want to. And so it has a lot of melody and atmosphere to it, but not a lot of rhythm. So what I did to give it some rhythm and kind of build something off of it was, first of all, added a fruity send. So get your fruity send and you're going to create an automation clip off of that. And then we're going to go down here and just kind of like build a shape off of it and maybe do something like this, move it over, make it unique, maybe change it to this, and then make it unique again, and then get a couple little bumps in here, and then make it unique again, and we'll kind of change this one slightly so it has a little swing to it, like this type of deal right here, maybe get it going like that. So get some kind of a pattern like that going. And then let's say you have ones where it's like they're very similar looking, like these two. To make them a little more visible, you can go in here, right click, rename, recolor. And if you have multiple ones selected, you can gradient them, which is a helpful way to see your different clips. Now we can kind of easily tell what's what here, make a pattern. And then there's a very important step that I usually like to do, which is select them all once we've, let's say we've built our pattern out here. Shift click to kind of copy and paste it really quick to like move them like I just did there, and then you're going to hit Control G, and that is going to merge your clips into one, which is important for this little technique right here. So we'll have something like this to start out with, right, and build something that works. I already have one here that we're going to be using for this. Then once I had that starting piece, it made it easier for me to write other stuff around it. So next I have a sub that I've added. And it's a really useful thing to be able to start with like a melodic texture or whatever, because it's probably going to have melodic rhythms that are not what you would write typically. So it'll help you get a little more creative with your bass patterns and like other stuff that you're adding to it after. It'll kind of help teach you or I guess inspire you. Like if you're not having a day where you're like, oh, all my little, midis that I'm writing are sounding like shit. Try doing this tricks. It'll help you kind of expand on what tricks you have and like the ways that you think about writing melodies. So the sound design for the sub, I usually don't cover subs, but in this case, I'm going to cover it because I like this one particularly and it does some useful stuff. Starts out with that sample from Glitchy Bullshit, Super Duper, and then I've took it and I've sent it into some post effects. So I'll turn those off and kind of bring them in one at a time. So we start with the plunk, we add some distortion to it, then OTT it, mostly favoring the lows because I'm trying to build a sub out of it. So I'm, bringing the highs down with this band. And then I add this EQ, and I want you to just feel the difference with and without. So this is without. And then this is with the EQ. Right, and I'm going to play without again just for a second. Much fuller width, right? But it's a bigger sound width. But without, it does something that's very important. I just want you to get a mental feeling and vibe for this, because this is really important to me. This is, I think, the most important part of this entire tutorial. In my opinion, this is the most crucial bit of this tutorial. So just feel it with the EQ again for a second. And I know I'm belaboring a point here, but this is vital to me. Maybe say some things. Say some things in your head about this sub. It's a little more dull. It's a little quieter. It's more warm. It's definitely less present. Did you say that the phase was messed up? Did ya? You didn't. So stop saying it in the comments. If it took you seeing this fucking blue band, if you had to see this band that cuts the fundamental, oh no, oh the phase, oh my sweet phase is gone. If it took you seeing this EQ to say that the phase is messed up, then it doesn't matter. And my point has been proven, and I'm fucking will die on this hill. I would protect this hill with my life 1,000 years over, because if you're the way that you're producing is like, well, if I don't follow these rules, if these rules that this guy said aren't followed, it might not sound good. I know it's all subjective anyways, but stop using some dumb rule like the phase is messed up to make production decisions, because if you're thinking about the phase, you've lost the battle. You're not thinking about what sounds good. You're thinking about, is this technically correct? It's like, it's music. There is no technically correct. There's like fucking screamo is technically incorrect in my opinion. I think that's not how you sing. People love it. So if you're worried about the phase, you've lost the battle. You're a phase bootlicker, basically. You refuse to actually like create art, and you're so worried about following rules that it's caused you to lose the whole plot. You've lost the entire plot. If you're trying to color inside the lines so hard that you can't like take a risk and do a thing that doesn't fucking fit in the box, then stop making music. It's 2025. We're making dubstep in 2025. Dubstep was cool 10 years ago. It's super lame and cringe now. Get off the phase wagon. Get into the go phase joker like myself and 90% of people that watch these videos, because I know that this is so, you know, to most people right now, they're saying like, oh yeah, obviously, dude, because we're just having fun doing fun stuff. Not some of these dudes and girls. Some of these dudes and girls are worrying about the fucking phase. Are you kidding me? And guess what? I know that I'm probably getting under your skin because if you're one of those phase Nazis that loves phase, they love fucking Nazi Germany and they love phase. They love that good, clean, pure Aryan phase that you have without this EQ. You know, I don't know. I've fully crashed out at this point. I don't know why I'm still talking about this, but it's just because it's annoying, because nobody said it before they saw the EQ. You had to see it in order to fucking say it. So it doesn't matter. Please let it go. I'll meet you with peace. I'll say, listen, I'll stop spurging if you just quit worrying about the phase. It's not important. And nobody that writes the comment, I'm sure, has stayed to this point. So I just, you know, as far as people that I dislike, I'd put Hitler at like number 3, most disliked. Guy who killed Hitler at number 2. And then the fucking phase people, the phase commenters, and the your sub can't have stereo, man. It's not allowed. Those people are number 1. If I had to only hang out with 2 people for forever and that was the 3 options, I'd take double Hitler instantaneously. So I'm sorry to fully go on such a tirade about phase, but it's stupid. I stunk at producing for years and still am mediocre. It's not because of phase though. I'm mediocre because I don't have a lot of talent. It is definitely not because I'm following stupid rules, because the people who are killing it right now are all innovative and they don't fucking think about phase. Good God, let phase go. It's in the past. So I'm gonna finally move on with the tutorial, but this was very important for me to say. Why do I have this EQ, and why have I destroyed the phase? Why does the phase go away? Because it makes the kick fit better. This is without the this little EQ here, and I'll leave the top band on so it's a little smaller. Hear how you can actually hear the low end of the kick, and you'd need speakers for this. Phone's not gonna make a difference, but here you can feel that thud with that. It just makes space for the low end of your kick to hit by carving a little bit of this out and not like boosting your fundamental a bunch. It gives you a thump that you can actually feel on the kick. It's the way that hip hop producers' kicks are really felt, and shitty phase Nazi people's kicks, you can't hear them, and they just are like a little clap that you can fucking, they're like a mouse fart of a thing. So I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna try and stop spazzing about phase, but I just hate those people so much. So then I just add a Saturn. Turn my kick off. I add a Saturn, which just warms it up some more. First I add a ring mod. So let's talk about this ring mod for a second. So what I will do to get something like this, and I'm going to add a different ring mod really quick. What this one does is this. Once I turn this fruity send on, it just follows that automation that I already showed earlier. And just to show that like how I typically do this, what I'll do is go in here, grab a ring mod, and then I will add, I'll just start setting the settings up to sound like that. So Go in here, we're gonna pick out bandpass noise, and I'll turn the mix all the way up. And then I might like bring some spread, do a little bit of bias, which is gonna add some width if you have the spread on to your sub. But I'm okay, again, I'm okay with a little bit of rule breaking. I've said this a million times. And then what you can do here is just kind of change the mix. And then you link this, once you have your mix dialed in, to just be like a, oh, not that one, to link it to your thing. And then you have like a quickly, easily set upable thing like that, which is gonna add some width to this layer, which is gonna add some like high-end crunch to this layer. Right, pretty useful stuff to have. All right, so sorry I spent so long on this sub. Let's just move into the growl, which is what people actually care about. This is what it sounds like in context with the other sounds that we have so far. And it's a really simple sound. You do need the fruity send to be on for this one. And all that I have going on here is just the simplest little thing where I've taken a saw wave, set a macro to modulate the level, and a diode distortion. And then I have a phaser. So first it's this. And as you can see, I've linked my macro to that thing that I showed earlier, that merged pattern clip. And then I just added a phaser to it, right? And it's almost the default settings on this. The only thing I've adjusted is the rate, just the tiniest bit. And this is a little bit similar to the I was trying to get something kind of like that carbine bass from Fake Out, I think is what it's called. And then you just go in here and add compression, Vocodex, with some noise on it. Bloom, reverb, EQing, distortion, compression. And I will show the EQ on this one too, because it does make quite a difference. This is without the EQ. Overpowering, way too much going on. This just makes it way smaller, and again, fucks with the phase. Uh-oh, don't do that. Don't mess with the phase. I'll stop. I'm gonna let the phase go because it's stupid. We're not saying phase. We're no more using the P word in this tutorial. This is P word free. We're not worrying about the P word anymore. Yeah, so I also have this reverb here that barely sounds like it does anything up to this point in the chain, and this is important. Right, you can barely hear it. You'd have to turn it way up. And why do I have stuff? Because in tutorials, I'll sometimes have an effect that people are like, that does nothing. Why did you add that? And it's a really fair question. And the reason would be because when I made this sound, I most likely started with this chain, right? Send it into my mix bus. And then I was like, you know what? It's a little dry. Let me add a reverb. And so I added a reverb and kind of sent it up in my effects chain. I think it was right here. And so like, you know, I'll get a reverb going. And go to where it's kind of felt but not heard, just giving a little bit of width on there. But then, you know, in the context of the tutorial, it just sounds like a reverb that you can't hear, but with all the compression and post effects after, you can hear it more. Lastly, I have a distortion on here with some bias, which I've already said I can't. It messes with the P word. So that's what bias does. It adds DC offset. Bias can prevent distorted audio from sounding hollow and uninteresting. Checkmate, P word fucking bastards. Yeah, see, I don't usually look at the tooltips because I don't believe in fucking doing what tooltips say, but yeah, I gotta let it go. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Really simple sound there. Then we have this bass pluck. And this is a really simple one that I've added some post effects to. It is a pluck in Serum 2 where I have a sine wave basically and a saw wave that are getting sent through. First of all, I've used the free. I've used free as the mode here, which just plays and repeats. It's at a half pattern. plucks this low pass filter at different heights, and then I go in here to the mix and I have like delay and a little bit of reverb and another filter after, so delay and reverb first. And then once I kind of had that, I was like, oh, let's clean it back up. So I wanted to get a pluckiness out of it. I didn't want it to be all repetitive from the delay. So I just added a filter again with the same. Which note is different from adding it after only, right? After only, you get almost like a saw wave because it's just a lead versus a double pluck. I'm probably explaining too much on these, so let's just go to the important parts, which is sending it through a vocodex where the growl is the modulator. So this is without the vocodex you've already heard, so I'll play it with the vocodex now. And the growl has to be on for this with the fruity send, which is adjusting the growl's volume, right? So you need the send to turn the growl on, which the growl is going to be the modulator for the vocodex, which you can set right there. And I'll turn this off. Right, and with the other post effects, and it's just a little bit of reverb on that, along with heavy compression and an EQ to get rid of some of this low smuts. Right, so then that mixes with the growl. Right, kind of gets that almost like Papa Khan type of whatever that guy's name is that used to make Future Riddim. Almost that type of vibe. So now let's move into like how you can get glitchy little pieces. And for this, I just do want to note that like the number one way, if you are new to making music that's glitchy, you should start trying to do stuff with samples. Don't try and sound design your own glitch. Do things with samples, because samples are going to teach you how to like arrange the glitch, which will be useful when you're trying to learn how to design glitchy pieces in the first place. So, right, this is just without my drums. This is just a nice little accent to my kick snare pattern that I have here. Right, and I got a tom as one of the pieces. So making fills is usually that type of a thing where you can kind of also layer it with what you have going on in your track. Then when you're trying to make your own little glitchy fillers, for this one I just took a sine wave and routed it, and this is probably just a sine wave. Let me see. It is a sine wave that I have added a little bit of hold here. So 16 milliseconds of hold, 34 milliseconds of decay, sustain all the way off. Gives me that type of vibe. I'm sending it through a little bit of distortion and some flanging, and then I'm sending that into a decimort, which is bit crushing. And some glitch from glitch 2. If you don't want to get glitch 2, just render it to audio and then manipulate the audio. But here I've just added a time stretcher to every quarter note and a reverser at a 30-second rate to get that type of deal there, and then a delay. So glitch 2, I do recommend it, but you can also do all of that stuff without glitch 2. So then I've just compressed it together, which probably is not even necessary. And then also, if you're doing sound design for fills and stuff, it's always useful to add different layers to get like texture beneath and between and stuff like that. I would avoid doing 7 to 10 layers, but you know, 1 to 4 is usually good, especially if you hawk it between those layers. So playing one of the layers at a time. Then here at the end, we have this part, which is just a thing where I've taken my bass bus here with those first layers that I just showed how to sound design, send them into a gross beat where I'm just doing like a stutter pattern at a 16th rate, which just repeats that same piece over and over again, which almost sounds like an oscillator, which I've heard Sizzy and like Jane Remover definitely do that in some way, shape, or form in their tracks, even though they might render it to audio to do it. And then I just have my glitch playing again. So a useful thing to use is also a gross beat to get those types of things. And you can always try other things with gross beat, right? You don't always have to just do the 16th rate pattern. There's a ton of things that work, even though I'll let you explore that on your own. So now let's move into the last part of this one, which is Serum 2 being the best. This is this growl right here, which is a mix of wavetable, you know, subtractive synthesis and spectral layering. So it's kind of that AU5E sounding deal. I'm going to kind of turn all of my stuff off and we'll go through building this from scratch. And this might be the longest part of the tutorial other than me fully spazzing about phase. So we're going to start with a wavetable. Monster 7, I've pitched it down 2 octaves, which is important if you're going to be layering multiple sounds. If not, if you're not layering, you can always just keep it at the main octave and play a lower note here, which does end up being useful because if you are not using your octave control, I used to always use the octave control and like pitch all my basses down 2 octaves. The only problem with that, and somebody named Josh Stuff or something, somebody who I've seen their content and I like what they do, they were like, you don't have to do that. And then I've tried not doing that now because I used to always keep it at -2 and play it in the 3 to 4 or the 4 range between 3 and 5. But I would run into the issue of I'm always making the same basses that use the same fundamental zone of that, which is pitched down 2 or 3 octaves. I like now to just use different places in this. And as you can see here, like my pluck is way up there. My sub is higher than my other bass. And it just lets you be a little more creative and like have happy accidents with where your like fundamental is. So then I've just painted in a couple notes and we will mute these and just try a D to start out so you can kind of get an idea of this. Also, mono and legato one, I've changed the curve to that and I've turned my porta time up to 200 milliseconds. Monster 7, if I already didn't say that. Turn on our first LFO. Just scanning through that wavetable there. Then we are going to add a filter to it and draw a new LFO to do that filter. I'll turn my spectral off. Then I've just kind of set that low pass with a little bit of resonance, some fatness, some drive. And you can kind of just draw something that you feel like works there, right? I've set it to a half rate, which is important for this one, but it'll give you some freedom later on. Kind of moving on here, that's really all I have for that point to the spectral layer. What I've done with the spectral layer on this is taken a melodic sample. In this case, I'm using like I think it's a granular like plucky loop thing. I drag that sample in and I'll turn these off. Then just play that, right? And it's going to be at not this tuning, so. And set your scan rate to whatever works, but then you can kind of go in here and just find a slice that works. Right? So it only works. You're going to have to adjust the start position along with the semitones to get something that works, but I just kept it with that there. Then you're going to go in here and pick out a spectral thing called, I think it's detune or shift. Probably detune would work as well. Let's try detune instead of shift. So I've routed this LFO onto my detuning, and then I'm going to go in here and just pick a spectral mask out, and you can use vocode. So if we vocode from A and turn it all the way up, that's not working too well. It tends to be more low end then, so let's switch to shift instead. Yeah, and I'm just not liking how vocoding's working on that. We'll go to mask from A. And I think I actually had spread plus minus. So as you can see, now we're getting just the frequencies from the oscillator A that are being masked and like only playing almost like a vocoder works, or like whatever sidechain, like spectral sidechain compression. I've showed that trick before. It kind of works like that, and you can set it to the A, or you can set it to filter 1's audio. And we're gonna go with that one in this case, even though I can't remember what I actually had on here. Yeah, and so I figured out I actually did use pitch shift for this originally, so once you have that, you might want to go in here and just add an LFO to both of these, right? So that's going to give you, like more of a controlled sound. You can also control like how much of your gain is going in at a time. And then just kind of start adding post effects. So I'm not going to spend too much time on these. We'll do it as a group though. So we have the first set of effects is a chorus, flanger. I do those two. Then I added this EQ that I'm not going to, I don't want to say what it does, but it messes with some P word. So don't do this if you're not allowed. If you're not allowed to mess with this, don't do it because it will mess with your P word and you don't want to mess up your P word. So just skip that if your mom doesn't let you mess with the P word. So I gotta let it go. Okay. Then I use a utility to get rid of some of the low end on the sub. So I am following some rules after all. And then I go in and just use a mid-side splitter and a compressor on the side channel. As you can see, it just reduces the width a little bit, or at least reduces the dynamic range of the width. So relatively slow compression too. And then I just compress the whole thing together. Then going into our post effects here, OTT, compression, bloom, which is almost like a fancy OTT, and saturation. And then lastly, how did I get it to sound like it sounded in the beginning? I just used pitch bending. So I've taken a high D, bent into a lower D. And you can do a lot of different versions of this. So like you might start here, add a little bump to where that pluck is, so it just kind of bends into it. And you might even want to do some more adjustments. So like once you have that set up, maybe you go in here and you say, oh, I want a double hit like this. Right, that could be useful. Or maybe you want to say, oh, you know what, I want this to be quicker and like reesier. So you switch all these to a quarter note. And get that like crunchy Virtual Riot plucky sound out of your spectral. Or you could even be like, oh, the spectral's too loud. And so I think that's it for this one. If you want to support this channel and you're not one of those disgusting P-word fucking bootlickers, go on over to Patreon and join the P-word Flat Earth Society, where you can be a true joker and get on your damn we live in a society flow and stop paying attention to phase. And it's you $5 you get some samples. $40 I make a video about whatever you want topic wise. Private video as well, so you can get feedback on your music and stuff. You can also go to Gumroad and buy this sample pack. Listen to these nice samples. Right, got granular stuff, pads, spectral loops, bunch of cool stuff in the new sample pack. Go buy that. Thank you for watching. I will see y'all in the next one.